Welcome to our channel. In today's video, we're diving into the compelling story of James Miller, a man whose life takes unexpected turns as he navigates love, betrayal, and personal transformation. From his humble beginnings as the son of German immigrants in Portland, Oregon, to the dramatic unraveling of his marriage and the surprising new beginnings he finds with a close friend, this story is a rollercoaster of emotions and life lessons. Stick around as we explore how James overcomes life's toughest challenges and ultimately finds true happiness in the most unexpected place. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more captivating stories like this. I believe that where you come from shapes who you become. My journey started before I was born. In the late 1970s, my parents left West Germany looking for better opportunities. They immigrated to the United States, dreaming of a new life. My mom was pregnant with me when they arrived in Portland, Oregon. My dad, a trained goldsmith, quickly found work, and they started building a future, not just for themselves, but for the family they were starting. Growing up, I heard stories about the sacrifices they made. My dad's dedication gave us a comfortable life. By the time my brother, Michael, was born, he had opened his own jewelry shop on the west side of town, a testament to his hard work. We lived well in the suburbs, but I knew their journey hadn't been easy. My name is James Miller, though most people call me Jamie. My parents left West Germany in 1979, before reunification, and put down roots in Portland, where I was born. My dad found work as a goldsmith, and a few years later, my brother, Michael, was born. Life was good as my dad's jewelry store thrived, allowing us to live comfortably. Now, they even spend winters in Arizona. I was an average student, more interested in girls and hockey than my studies. I struggled to find a job at first, but eventually I landed a customer service position at a building materials company in Denver. A year later, I transferred to their main office in the city, where, surprisingly, my high school French came in handy and helped me get the job. I immediately fell in love with Denver, its modern vibe, the nearby mountains, and the energy of the city. I made friends through work and playing hockey. I joined a beer league and ended up as a first-line defenseman because I could skate backward. It was fun and kept me in shape. At the end of one season, I met Jennifer Davis at a team barbecue. Like me, she was originally from Portland. We hit it off, exchanged numbers, and started dating. Jennifer was attractive, with short dark brown hair and a slim figure. Within a year, I proposed, and after some discussion about our future, she accepted. We'd been living together for months, and while Jennifer was a little traditional, we both seemed happy. She worked as a lab technician, running medical tests for private clinics across the state. She was proud of her hard-earned position and enjoyed both the work and her colleagues, who were all women, except for their boss, Mark Thompson. As we planned our future, we figured that if I landed a sales job we were in line for, our combined income would be close to $90,000. Potentially enough to buy a house in the competitive Denver market. Jennifer accepted my proposal on the condition that I got the job. A few months later, I did. We set a date and shared the news with our families. My parents were thrilled, and while Jennifer's parents were more cautious, they eventually came around and made plans to attend the wedding. We got married in a small church in the suburbs and honeymooned in Aspen and Santa Fe before returning to our rented apartment. I worked hard at my new sales job, consistently meeting my targets. Meanwhile, Jennifer kept up her steady schedule at the lab. Even with our different work hours, life was good. We were able to save enough to buy a townhouse in the suburbs and celebrated our third anniversary not long after moving in. We talked about starting a family, but Jennifer insisted on waiting until we were more financially secure, though she never actually said what that meant. Like a lot of couples, our intimate life gradually slowed down. Before we got married, we were intimate 4 or 5 times a week, but after 3 years, it dropped to once or twice. I eventually brought it up with Jennifer, but she got defensive, suggesting that we were just tired from work. I missed the way things used to be, but I adjusted, figuring not every couple wants the same things at the same time. Overall, we seemed happy and on track for a successful marriage. It might seem surprising, but I developed a close friendship with a woman named Cynthia after she and her husband, Alan, moved in next door. Even though we were close friends, there was nothing romantic or sexual between us at all. Cynthia was a stay-at-home mom with 2 elementary school-aged kids, while Alan worked as a car salesman. She had a sharp wit, a no-nonsense attitude, and a really bold sense of humor. Cynthia, a little taller than Jennifer, with reddish blonde hair and blue eyes, often joked about how Alan did the right thing by marrying her after she got pregnant. They had 2 kids. Ashley, a 10-year-old in 5th grade, and Brandon, a 7-year-old in 2nd grade. Cynthia sometimes called her husband, Alvy, when she was annoyed, but most people knew him as Alan. He was about 6 feet tall, with curly red hair, a ruddy complexion, and a flashy style, bright suits, a fake Rolex, and a gold ring. Alan seemed to think it was the perfect look for a car salesman, and his over-the-top, always-on personality could be charming or irritating. Unfortunately, I usually found him more annoying, though Jennifer seemed indifferent to him. I really liked Cynthia's directness, and we became good friends. I also liked her kids. Ashley, or Ash, as she was often called, was polite and charming, destined to be a heartbreaker someday. Brandon was playful and always cheerful, with good manners that I appreciated. Jennifer, however, kept her distance from them, which made me wonder if she was signaling that she wasn't so sure about having kids after all. If we were going to start a family, I was hoping our kids would be like Ashley and Brandon. Things took a downturn last spring. After 6 years of marriage and almost having enough saved for a house, I was unexpectedly laid off when my company was sold and they closed down our branch. The news came as a shock, and Jennifer's reaction was anger and disappointment, as if I had somehow failed her. It was a tough blow to my ego. I started job hunting right away, but the opportunities in my field were few and far between. Jennifer would leave for work every morning with a quick kiss, while I spent my days searching for jobs and feeling more and more discouraged. After 2 frustrating weeks, I was feeling pretty low. Cynthia showed up one morning, as chipper as ever. "Hey handsome, got any more coffee?" she asked. She often called me handsome, even in front of Alan and Jennifer, and neither of them seemed to mind. I invited her in, and as we talked, I told her about losing my job. Cynthia, in her usual blunt way, acknowledged how rough it was but immediately started brainstorming ways to help. Unlike Jennifer, who seemed distant, Cynthia was genuinely concerned. She asked about my best subject in school, and I mentioned English, especially writing. Cynthia's face lit up. "A friend of mine works from home, writes manuals, that kind of thing. She's turning down work left and right, too busy. Maybe you could talk to her?" "Really? That would be great, Cynthia, thank you," I said, really appreciating her willingness to help. "Her name's Patty Jones. Here, I'll call her right now." Cynthia handed me the phone, and I got Patty at the perfect time. I offered to call back later, but she was on a break and happy to chat, especially since I was a friend of Cynthia's. Patty shared that she'd been in a similar situation, unemployed and desperate, when she'd found an ad for a job writing manuals and instructions for an import-export business. The company needed someone to create clear English instructions for products they were importing from China, as the translations they were getting were laughably bad. Patty took the job and never looked back. And get this, they're also looking for someone who can translate into French. They've been using this pricey translation service, but they really need someone in-house who can write and translate. It's a mess, especially with the machinery manuals. She gave me the company's name and a contact person, and I asked if I could mention her name. She said sure, and I handed the phone back to Cynthia while I poured us both more coffee. "Cynthia, you and Patty might have just saved my life. I can't thank you enough." "No need. It's nice to see you perk up again. You looked pretty down earlier." "Yeah, well, Jennifer hasn't quite grasped the situation yet. She's not thrilled about me being out of work. Kind of messes up our plans, you know?" "Jamie, you didn't get fired. This happens. It's just how things are these days. Alan's come home down before, too. I give him a pep talk. Maybe a little fun, and he's back at it the next day." She laughed. "Sounds like a plan," I said, a little envious of how easily Cynthia seemed to handle things, while Jennifer was so negative. I called the number Patty had given me and spoke with Mr. Chen. I mentioned Patty's name and offered to provide a free writing sample. He was definitely interested and asked if I could meet that afternoon. We set up an appointment for 2 p.m. I was so relieved, I practically hugged Cynthia in tears. "You don't know how good this feels, can you?" Glad to help, she replied with a grin. Cynthia left around 11 o'clock, and I immediately showered, shaved, and put on a clean shirt, navy blazer, and tan slacks. I didn't want to risk spilling anything before the meeting, so I waited to eat lunch. I met with Mr. Chen at 2 p.m. sharp. He was a balding Asian man in his mid-50s, wearing a slightly rumpled suit. It made me wonder if he was trying to cut costs wherever he could. But Patty had spoken highly of him, so I figured I'd give him a shot. He explained that he imported machines from China and Thailand, everything from plastics manufacturing equipment to woodworking tools. The Chinese to English translations he was getting were so bad that even he couldn't understand them, and that was with him reading the original Chinese. He needed clear English instructions for his American customers, and French translations to sell in Canada. The high cost of translation services wasn't cutting it, especially since the translators didn't understand the machinery. He was looking for someone who could handle both. I understand your situation. Tell you what, let's give it a try. If I can do the job, we can agree on a fair price. Sounds good? I suggested. Yes, that works for me. I'm really hoping you can handle this. It would be a huge help to my business, and I'll make sure it's worth your while. He assured me. Why don't you take a set of instructions as a sample? You can work on it here, or take it home and bring it back when it's done. He smiled. My computer's a bit outdated. Better if you use yours. Just let me know when you're finished, and we can go over it. Great. Show me the instructions, and I'll get started. He handed me a thin folder from a stack on his desk and led me into his warehouse, which was filled with crates and machinery. This is the machine the instructions are for. Take a look and let me know if you have any questions. I compared the drawings in the manual to the actual machine. They seemed to match up, but I asked, how accurate are these drawings? Most are good, but sometimes they send old drawings with the new machines. Causes a lot of headaches. I can't sell a machine without the right drawings. Bad for business, you understand. I hear you. These seem accurate. I'll get started on the instructions. If I run into any snags, I'll give you a call. Consider this first job a trial run. See if I can do the work, and if it's something I want to pursue. He nodded, a smile returning to his face. A wise approach. I left Mr. Chen feeling excited about the potential. It wasn't anything like my old job, but that was a good thing. It was way more interesting. If it worked out, I knew I'd be, well, happier. Jennifer, though, not so optimistic. When I told her about it that night, her first response was, "What do you know about machinery? And how are you going to make any real money from this?" I know someone who's already doing it, and pretty successfully, too. And she works from home, which I kind of like the idea of. Oh, great. So you're going to sit around all day while I work my butt off at the lab? And just how is working from home going to save us money, exactly? No commuting costs, for one. It seems like it could be a good situation. Look, I need to try this. Show me you believe I can actually earn a living, okay? If it were that easy, Jamie, everyone would be doing it. I have my doubts. Hey, remember I've got a pretty mechanical mind, and I'm a good writer. Plus, I'm bilingual, which is pretty rare around here. I think I've got a good shot at this, but I need to give it a try. So how much is this guy paying you? Nothing yet. It's a free trial to prove I can do the job. Once I know what my time is worth, we'll work out a price. Great, so you're working for free, on a job you don't even know if you can do? Fantastic. She practically stomped off to the kitchen. Her reaction kind of deflated my excitement, but I was determined to prove her wrong. After dinner, I went straight to our home office and got to work on those instructions. The English was so poorly translated that it was almost impossible to understand. I took a deep breath and started rewriting. By midnight, after pushing through a headache and a stiff neck, I'd finished a page and a half of the 6-page manual. It was slow going, but I was starting to get a rhythm. Exhausted, I headed for bed, took a couple of Tylenol, and fell asleep pretty quickly, feeling satisfied with my effort. When I woke up, Jennifer was already dressed and eating her usual yogurt and granola breakfast. As expected, there was no coffee, she never drank it. I said good morning, and she mumbled something back. After a quick peck on the cheek, she was out the door and on her way to work by 7:10 a.m. I went to the office, looked over what I'd done the night before, and fixed a few small mistakes before continuing where I'd left off. I was on my second, maybe third cup of coffee, when I heard Cynthia's familiar voice. "You who? It's me again, handsome," she called from the back door, the sound of a smile in her voice. "Come on in, Cyn. Grab a coffee, I'm in the office." She came in, taking in my appearance with a raised eyebrow. I was still in my t-shirt and boxers. "Hey, just because I haven't shaved and gotten dressed yet doesn't mean I'm a slob," I joked. Cynthia just laughed. "So, what you working on?" "Let me guess, page 3 of 60. Translating the installation instructions for the nuclear reactor?" "Ha ha. Very funny. Actually, it's page 3 of 6. Translating the instructions for the Heavenly Blossom Model 356K14 thickness planer," I replied with exaggerated seriousness. Cynthia burst out laughing. "Where do they get these names?" "Beats me, but this is tougher than I thought it would be. I spent 5 hours last night and only got through a page and a half. It's going faster this morning, though. I should be finished by noon, then it's on to French." "And you're doing all this for free?" she asked, sounding a lot like Jennifer. "Yeah, well, Jennifer's not impressed either. But it's the results that matter. I'll know soon enough if this is even worth pursuing." "Good luck, Jamie. I have a good feeling about this. I think you're going to surprise Jennifer." Cynthia was always so direct, and so supportive. After a brief silence, she asked, "Jamie, can I ask you something kind of personal?" "Sure, go ahead." "Do you think that you and Jennifer are really happy?" I paused, staring down at my coffee. It was a good question. A damn good question. "That's a good question, Canyon. A damn good one." I left it at that. By 11:30 a.m., I was finished with the English version and called Mr. Chen to let him know I'd have the French done by that afternoon. He was happy to hear it and told me to stop by any time. That little vote of confidence gave me a much-needed boost. After a quick lunch and some help from my French dictionary, I'd finished the translation by 2:30 p.m. I double-checked both versions one last time, making sure there weren't any mistakes. Feeling confident, I put on my best business clothes and headed back to Mr. Chen's office. He carefully reviewed my English version, occasionally nodding in approval or making a small note. Finally, he looked up, a pleased expression on his face. "Excellent work, Mr. Miller. I'm going to send these over to be verified, but if your French is as good as your English, I think we have a deal." Then he asked how many hours I'd spent on the project. When I told him 11, he didn't hesitate. "I'll have a check for you tomorrow for $660. Consider it a down payment." I started to remind him that it was supposed to be a free trial, but he waved a hand dismissively. "I don't take advantage of good work, Mr. Miller. I have a feeling we can do good business together. I'd advise you to think about incorporating, though. Save on taxes, protect yourself from liability, you know how it is." I thanked him sincerely and told him to let me know if there were any issues with the French translation. I was just about to head out when he surprised me. "Don't you want your next assignment?" he asked. "Of course. Yes, absolutely." I stammered, eager to keep this going. He smiled. "I have a good feeling about that French, Mr. Miller. Just as good as your English, I'm sure. And please, call me Jamie. We need to thank Ms. Jones for sending you my way." He handed me another manual. "It's for a, well, come on back and take a look." We went back into the warehouse and looked over the machine in question. After I confirmed that the drawings seemed up to date, we shook hands, and I left, practically skipping down the sidewalk. $60 an hour. If I could swing a 40-hour workweek, that was over $120,000 a year. And judging by the stack of manuals on Mr. Chen's desk, there was no shortage of work. When I told Jennifer about the pay rate that evening, her mood definitely improved. She even suggested we go out to celebrate. I was feeling a million times better about the future, and couldn't wait to tell Cynthia. She was the one who'd started it all. The next morning, I got straight to work on the new manual. It was a simpler machine, which, combined with the experience I gained on the first one, made the job go a lot faster. I finished the English version by 1 p.m., and the French translation was done before dinner, 8 hours total. I called Mr. Chen first thing the next morning. He was thrilled with my work and eager for the next batch. I dropped it off at his office later that day. As I was leaving, I asked, "Mr. Chen, would it be possible to set up a system where I don't have to drive in every day? Maybe I could take a week's worth of work and email you the finished translations?" "I don't see why not. And you know what, let's set you up with direct deposit, too. Save us both some time and hassle. You'll need to give me your business account information, of course." Business account information? I didn't even have a business yet. We talked about drawing up a formal contract, and I told him I'd need to run it by my business advisor first. After carefully reviewing the 5 new manuals and the corresponding machines, I found one minor discrepancy in the drawings, but other than that, the work was straightforward. By the end of the week, Precise Word Services was officially a reality. I filed for a business license, opened a business bank account, ordered business cards, and even designed a professional letterhead. My lawyer helped me draft a letter of agreement with Mr. Chen that outlined our terms, including my hourly rate. I even splurged on a color laser printer as a legitimate business expense. By Thursday, I had finished and delivered the 5 manuals, picking up 6 more and reviewing the machines before leaving Mr. Chen's. Looking at the sheer volume of equipment in that warehouse, I had to wonder just how many machines the man had. I'd already logged 46 billable hours that week, which meant I was on track to earn almost $4,000. With Friday's work, I'd probably double it. It felt good to be making this kind of money again. I was basically working non-stop in my home office. Jennifer barely saw me, except at dinner, where we'd have short, mostly superficial conversations. I noticed that over those first few weeks, her initial disdain toward my new career shifted into a kind of wary curiosity. "So, how often do you get paid, anyway?" she asked one evening. "I get paid per job. Since I'm an independent contractor now, I handle all my own taxes and stuff," I explained. A couple of days later, she hinted that she might need some cash. "Could you spare $1,000? Things have been a little tight since, you lost your job." "Sure." I agreed cautiously, even though things were already going so well. It felt good to contribute again, even if I technically hadn't been out of work for very long. I transferred $1,000 from my business account to our joint checking, and Jennifer seemed surprised, but pleased. I decided to schedule a quick meeting with Mr. Chen, just to get a sense of how things were looking long-term. He reassured me that he had even more complex machines on the way, which meant plenty of work ahead. I felt a wave of relief. Maybe I could actually relax a little. One warm afternoon, Cynthia stopped by, as usual. "Hey handsome, where have you been hiding? I haven't seen you in ages," she said, greeting me with a smile. "Hey yourself. Come on in, I'll tell you all about it." I was eager to share how well things were going. As Cynthia settled in with a cup of coffee, I couldn't resist a little playful bragging. "So, you're now speaking to the president of Precise Word Services, Incorporated. James R. Miller, at your service." She laughed, but in a good-natured way. "Yeah, right, Mr. President. Sure, Jamie." We shared a laugh, then she turned serious for a moment. "No, but really, it's good to see you happy. It's been a while." I knew what she meant. "Yeah, it feels like a huge weight has been lifted. I can actually breathe again. Move forward." Her curiosity got the better of her. "So, what does Jennifer think about all of this?" she asked. I met her gaze. "She doesn't really know." Cynthia's eyebrows shot up. "You mean she can't make up her mind? About whether she's happy for you?" "No, it's not that. I mean, I haven't told her." She paused. "Oh." I reminded her of our earlier conversation. "Remember the other day, when you asked if Jennifer and I were really happy? I've been thinking about that. And I'm not so sure anymore, Canyon. I haven't lied to her exactly, but I haven't told her everything, either." "Why not?" she pressed. I shrugged, feeling uneasy. "I don't know. I have this feeling, like something's not right." After a thoughtful pause, I asked, "What would you do?" I mean, if you were me, making good money again, would you tell Alan? Cynthia considered this for a moment. That's a tough one, Jamie. We live on Alan's commissions, it's hand to mouth sometimes. I'd hate to think he'd ever hide something like that from me. Yeah, that's what's bothering me. I am kind of keeping this from Jennifer, and I'm not sure why. Cynthia's response was direct, almost matter-of-fact. That's easy. You don't trust her. You really think so? I know so. Look, I can tell something's off between you two. And I'm pretty damn sure it's not you. Why do you say that? I was genuinely curious. Cynthia didn't mince words. I know you, Jamie. You're a straight shooter, no BS. But I've seen how Jennifer treats you sometimes when she doesn't think anyone's watching. Like she married beneath her or something. I don't know. It's just a feeling. What about her parents, do you think? They don't exactly roll out the red carpet for me, I admitted. Maybe it's rubbing off on her. Cynthia scoffed. Like her parents are royalty or something? Please. Her dad's a city worker, and her mom works part-time at the grocery store. They're definitely not royalty. You're telling me, they should be grateful she married a guy who treats her right. You deserve better, Jamie. I sighed, thinking maybe Cynthia was right. I don't know, Canyon. Maybe they did have higher expectations for her. She leaned back in her chair, regarding me with concern. So, what are you going to do? I honestly don't know. I love her, but it's like, she's given up on us, you know? On me. At least, I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're wrong too, Jamie. Cynthia's voice was soft. Even though there was no indication that Jennifer was cheating, at least not that I knew of, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. A few weeks later, she started working late, claiming it was due to a reorganization at the lab. We were drifting further apart, and it was killing me. I was nearing 28, and we hadn't even started a family yet. I started to wonder if it would ever happen. I made a point of cutting back on my own work hours, hoping to spend more time with Jennifer to reconnect. I also started depositing $800 to $1,000 a week into our joint account, explaining that the business was doing well and we were on solid footing. But even with our improved financial situation, our relationship didn't get any better. The intimacy was still infrequent. Once, maybe twice a week at most. And no amount of effort on my part seemed to make a difference. Meanwhile, things with Mr. Chen were better than ever. He was always praising my work, and as I got more efficient, I actually found myself with more free time. Every now and then, I'd treat myself to lunch out or grab a beer after work at a local bar. Just to get out of the house, really. After our heart-to-heart a few weeks back, Cynthia and I hadn't seen much of each other besides the occasional wave from across the driveway. That is, until I started inviting her over for coffee in the mornings. It became our routine. A chance to talk openly about things, without worrying about being overheard. One morning, over coffee, I confessed. It's the same. Distant. She's working late again tonight, reorganization. Do you think you two are going to make it? Cynthia asked gently. I want to keep trying, but I'm not so sure anymore. It takes two, Jamie. You both have to be trying. Yeah, I know. She was quiet for a minute, then she said it, her voice barely a whisper. Jamie, she's cheating on you. I froze. Cynthia was many things, but she wasn't one to joke about something like that. You know this? I asked, my voice barely audible. She nodded, her expression serious. I know. With who? I already knew the answer, but I had to ask. Her boss, Mark Thompson. A chill ran down my spine. How long? Not that long with him. But he's not the first, Jamie. What do you mean? Alan. I found out Alan slept with her a few months ago. Holy crap, Canyon. Anyone else? Not that I know of. But one's enough, isn't it? Yeah, more than enough. I'm going to kill him, Canyon. I am done. He's pulled this crap before. If I let him get away with it this time, he'll just keep doing it. I'm going to find another place, as soon as I can. I won't let my kids live like this. I groaned, my head in my hands. This couldn't be happening. Jesus, Canyon, could this get any worse? Don't I know it? Remember when you lost your job, and Jennifer gave you such a hard time? And now this. What a mess. I said, feeling utterly defeated. Yeah. Cynthia agreed. Well, I guess I'll be rethinking my financial plans, too. No way I'm giving him a dime more than I have to. She can go live with her precious boss. I can't say I blame you. Just promise me you won't do anything that'll land you in jail, okay? I still need you for these morning coffee dates. She tried to make a joke of it, to lighten the mood. I surprised myself by saying, maybe we should both kick them out. And then we move in together? It was a crazy idea, and I was only half joking. You're forgetting something, Jamie. The kids. No, I'm not. And if they don't come too, then the deal's off. I tried to keep my voice light, to dispel some of the heaviness that had settled between us. Cynthia laughed, but I noticed there were tears in her eyes. We both needed a release from the emotional pressure cooker we were in. So we shared a laugh, a brief moment of lightness in the middle of all the chaos. It felt so good to be able to talk to someone who understood. We decided to shelve our mutual spouse problems, at least for the day. I had work to do, and I needed to figure out how to navigate life with Jennifer until I decided on my next move. To my surprise, I felt strangely detached. More disappointed than angry, really. I even found myself wondering how many other guys there had been, besides Alan and her boss. That evening, I pretended everything was normal, even though it took me forever to fall asleep. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do next. One thing was clear, though, I needed proof. Not that I didn't believe Cynthia, but I had to see it with my own eyes. The next morning, Jennifer announced that she had to work late again. I had a hunch that working late meant something else entirely. I called Cynthia, borrowed her car, and parked across the street from the lab, waiting for Jennifer to come out. Sure enough, around 6:30, she emerged from the building with a tall, well-dressed man who looked a lot like Mark Thompson. They got into a silver Mercedes and, my heart pounding, I followed them. They drove to a nearby hotel, where I watched them check in, each carrying an overnight bag. I took a few discreet pictures with my phone, confirming what I already knew. Later, when I returned Cynthia's car, she pulled me into a hug. I'm so sorry, Jamie. But at least now you know. Don't do anything rash, okay? Cool down, think it through, then confront her. We agreed to talk more the next day. The following morning, before the kids got back from school, Cynthia and I had a chance to regroup. I was angry, hurt by Jennifer's betrayal, but one thing was certain. Our marriage was over. There was no coming back from this. How did you find out, Canyon? About Jennifer, I mean. Cynthia explained that she'd heard rumors through the grapevine. Apparently, one of Jennifer's co-workers had caught wind of the affair with Mark and had been gossiping. It eventually made its way to Cynthia, through a chain of friends who knew we were neighbors. It seems like everyone knew but me. And about Alan. Cynthia's cheeks flushed slightly. Well, there's a nosy neighbor down the street who saw Alan at our house one afternoon when you were out of town. I guess Jennifer fell for his whole, big shot salesman, act. What an idiot. She shook her head in disgust. Is this Thompson guy, is he married? I asked. He is. I don't know much else about him, though. Cynthia grabbed my phone book, flipped through it, and picked up the phone. After a moment of listening to the ringing, she said, very formally, "Hello, is this Mrs. Richard Thompson?" There was a pause. Cynthia quickly covered the mouthpiece with her hand and whispered, "She's going to answer. Act casual." A moment later, Cynthia apologized, claiming she had the wrong number, and hung up. She shot me a knowing look. She answered, and she sounded surprised. I'm guessing they don't have kids. Or if they do, they weren't expecting a call from mommy's little helper. I shook my head, realizing how incredibly sharp Cynthia was. No wonder I could never pull anything over on her. We sat in silence for a bit, then she said, "You know what we should do? We should go down to City Hall, Jamie. I'd like to see who owns that clinic she works at." Cynthia finished, her voice laced with a hint of mischief. What's on your mind, Canyon? I asked, intrigued. Just thinking, we might be able to find you some leverage. You never know what a little title search might turn up. Let's do it. I've got nothing but time right now. I had to smile. Leave it to Cynthia to think of that. 10 minutes and $10 later, we were staring at the property deed for the clinic. It was in Elaine Thompson's name, Mark Thompson's wife, and listed their home address. Well. Looks like Mrs. Thompson holds all the cards, Cynthia said, a mischievous smirk spreading across her face. So, the lover boy's wife owns the building, and he's probably just a glorified manager. I bet Jennifer has no clue. I mused out loud. If Mark was playing Jennifer, she was in for a rude awakening when I finally dumped her. Cynthia chuckled. Ain't that a shame? We left City Hall, feeling a little lighter, and grabbed some lunch. Being with Cynthia always seemed to lift my spirits. We steered clear of our personal drama, though, at least until we were back at the townhouse. So, what now? I wondered out loud. You took those pictures, right? Cynthia asked, looking at me pointedly. Yeah, I got them. I took my camera out of my bag, connected it to my computer, and we scrolled through the photos. These shots of them at the hotel check-in and in the elevator, they're pretty damning. I could hire a private investigator if you want more, but it's probably not worth it. Whether you file for divorce based on infidelity or irreconcilable differences, the end result is the same. Save your money and brace yourself. It could get ugly. I never thought it would come to this, I said, shaking my head in disbelief. None of us do, Jamie. I never thought Alan would cheat on me, either. And he did, more than once. But I'm stuck for now. I need to find a job, get back on my feet, before I can think about leaving and still provide for the kids. I paused, taking a deep breath. Cynthia, I've been thinking about something. Hear me out, okay? Open mind? She turned to me, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. I'll try. Remember the other day when I was joking about us moving in together, with the kids? The more I think about it, the more I like the idea. My business is doing great. I'll probably make over $125,000 this year. I could buy a 4-bedroom house, somewhere in the same school district. You and the kids could move in, as tenants, at least until you find a job and get back on your feet. No pressure, no strings attached. Cynthia's eyes widened as I spoke. That's an incredibly sweet offer, Jamie. Really, but it wouldn't be fair to you. What about your life, your future? You don't want to be single forever, do you? No, of course not. But it wouldn't have to be permanent. If you found a job and decided you wanted to move out, you could. In the meantime, at least you and the kids would be in a safe, stable environment. Jamie, you're a good guy. A really good guy. But, what if I do move out eventually? What are you going to do with a big, empty house? I shrugged, trying to sound nonchalant. Maybe you won't want to move out. Cynthia's eyes widened. Are you saying that you have feelings for me? I nodded, unable to meet her gaze. Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. Oh, Jamie, don't do this to me. She was clearly conflicted. Do what? I asked, a small smile playing at the corner of my lips. Don't mess with my head like this. It's too much. I haven't even kicked Alan out yet, and now you're coming on to me? It's not fair. She was practically sputtering. I know. It's not fair, not really. It's about what we both know. If you don't feel the same way, Canyon, just say so. Cynthia didn't say anything for a moment. Tears welled up in her eyes. She stood up and wandered around the kitchen, shaking her head, mumbling to herself. I took it as a good sign that she hadn't flat out said no, or gotten angry. She was uncertain, yeah, but not offended. Finally, she turned to me, a look of exasperation on her face. Damn you, Jamie Miller. How could you? And then, without another word, she was in my arms, pulling me into a tight embrace. When she finally let go, I stood there, a little dazed, and hugged her back. So, can I take that as a yes? I asked softly. Of course it's a yes, you idiot. How could I possibly say no to you? She was wiping away tears, but there was a smile on her face. No pressure, Canyon. I mean it. If this works, great. If not, no hard feelings, okay? I had to be sure. She looked me dead in the eye. It'll work. I'll make damn sure of it. And then she started crying again, this time tears of relief. I felt a surge of hope. We would get through this. It wouldn't be easy, but we'd come out stronger on the other side. Following a friend's advice, I hired a family law firm and met with Melissa Carter, a sharp lawyer who seemed genuinely invested in getting me the best outcome. I decided not to try and hide my new income. If it came down to it, I would disclose everything, but I was hoping to negotiate my way out of paying alimony. Melissa suggested a kind of bluff. We'd offer Jennifer a clean 50-50 split of our assets, with no alimony, and hope she accepted without digging into my finances too deeply. I told Melissa that I would serve Jennifer with the papers soon, and she assured me that everything would be ready. The following week crawled by. Jennifer continued her late-night reorganization schedule at the lab. Finally, Melissa called to let me know that the paperwork was finalized. I took a deep breath and dialed Cynthia's number. Hey, it's D-Day, Canyon. I have the papers, just need to figure out the best way to deliver them. Want to come over? Be right there. Put the coffee on. We talked strategy over coffee, my nerves buzzing. Okay, here's the plan. Tonight, I'll talk to Jennifer. Tell her I know about her little fling with Thompson, and then I'll give her the papers. If she tries to deny it, or if she fights me on anything, I'll show her the pictures. And I'll casually mention that there were witnesses, which is technically true, thanks to the hotel staff. And just for good measure, I'll remind her that Mrs. Thompson has no clue what her husband is up to. That should make her a little more cooperative, don't you think? Oh, and one more thing. Elaine Thompson? She doesn't know anything about her husband's extracurricular activities. Just thought you should know. You've got it all planned out, huh? What if she throws a fit? Refuses to sign? What if things get ugly? Cynthia asked. Then I walk. I'll grab a motel room. We can fight it out in court, but I'm done. I'm done living a lie. You've packed a bag? She asked. I grinned. Not yet, but I will. Don't worry, sweetheart, there'll be no overtime for Jennifer tonight. Cynthia gave me a quick kiss and a hug. Good luck, Jamie. Let me know how it goes. Once this is all over, we'll figure out how to handle Alan. Which might be even tougher, to be honest. We both knew that Alan wasn't going to go down without a fight. Cynthia was planning on staying at their townhouse, at least until the dust settled. I'd insisted on lending her some of the cash I'd set aside for the divorce lawyer. It felt good to be able to help. We were in this together. That evening, after we'd finished our usual silent dinner, I told Jennifer, we need to talk. She tensed visibly, probably expecting another, we need to be closer, conversation. Enough talk, Jennifer. I know about you and Mark Thompson. And since you don't seem to have any respect for me, or for our marriage, I'm divorcing you. Here are the papers. I was surprised by how calm my voice sounded. The look on her face, utter shock, was priceless. She gasped, coughing, struggling to form words. How did you? Was all she could manage. You weren't exactly discreet, Jennifer. It seems like everybody knew. Including your coworkers. Oh God. Jamie, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. I shrugged, trying to appear indifferent. It's done. I'm proposing a clean 50-50 split. We can sell the townhouse and divide the equity, or you can buy me out. Either way, I won't be living here anymore. I kept my voice even, my expression neutral. Jennifer nodded slowly. That's fair. She couldn't even look at me. Why, Jennifer? Why didn't you just say something, if you weren't happy? For a moment, I thought she might try to make an excuse, but she didn't. Mark, he's successful, Jamie. He has money. I thought he could give me a better life. A life you couldn't. I wanted to tell her how wrong she was, about Mark, about everything, but I remembered Melissa's advice. Don't overplay your hand. Instead, I just said, "Well, I hope you find what you're looking for, Jennifer. It's pretty obvious you weren't happy with me." "It wasn't you, Jamie. You were always good to me. I wanted more. More than you could give me, I guess." "An upgrade," I muttered bitterly. Maybe Mark is wealthy, Jennifer. Did he tell you he plans to leave his wife and support you? Because last I checked, he's still married." Jennifer looked like I'd slapped her. We were just having fun, Jamie. It wasn't, we were good together." Her voice trailed off. "I'm moving out tonight, Jennifer. I'll find a motel or something. If you agree to the terms we discussed, you can sign the papers tonight. You might want to talk to a lawyer, though. It's your right." I hoped she would just accept it, make it easy on both of us. "No. I won't fight you, Jamie. I hurt you. This is my fault. 50-50, it's more than fair. I'll sign the papers tonight." Her gaze was still fixed on the floor. I went to the bedroom and grabbed my pre-packed duffel bag. When I came back, Jennifer looked surprised that I'd already been planning my exit. She handed me the signed papers, and I scanned them quickly, tucking them carefully into my briefcase. "I'll come by tomorrow to get the rest of my things. And my computer files." "Of course. This is still your house, Jamie." She finally met my gaze, and for a moment, the sadness in her eyes almost made me reconsider. Almost. I leaned over and kissed her gently on the cheek. "Goodbye, Jennifer." And then, just as quietly as that, I turned and walked out of her life. I had won my freedom, but I'd also lost everything I had once hoped for. It felt like a hollow victory. But I knew, deep down, that I couldn't stay with Jennifer after what she'd done. The next morning, from the relative safety of my motel room, I called Melissa. "It's done. No drama, just a quiet end. She signed the papers." Melissa sounded relieved. "That's great news, Jamie. One less thing to worry about." I thanked her, hung up the phone, and headed back to the townhouse, Melissa's copy of the signed papers tucked safely in my briefcase. As I pulled into the driveway, I realized it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt empty. I quickly gathered my clothes and personal belongings, leaving anything else behind for now. I could come back for the rest later. Jennifer could keep the stupid wedding photos, I certainly didn't want them. As for the furniture, we could figure out how to divide it all later. Back in my makeshift motel office, I sat at the small desk, staring blankly at the wall, trying to process the end of an 8-year chapter of my life. I didn't feel good about it, exactly, but I knew I needed to move on. The thought of Cynthia, and a future that included her, lifted my spirits a little. I took a deep breath and began the tedious task of downloading all my files onto my new laptop. It would probably take most of the morning. I sent Mr. Chen a quick email letting him know that I needed to take a week off, due to personal issues. He wrote back almost immediately, saying not to worry and to take care of whatever needed taking care of. Working from a motel room wouldn't be ideal, but it was doable. I really missed my morning coffee with Cynthia, but we both agreed it was best to lay low for now, at least until she served Alan with his divorce papers. We met at a coffee shop on Friday afternoon, parking in a quiet corner of the lot so we could talk privately. "How are you holding up?" I asked, taking her hand. She sighed. "I'm okay, but I'm dreading telling Alan. I'm going to do it tomorrow morning, right after the kids leave for school. It's the only time we're ever alone." Melissa advised me not to force him to leave, at least not until he finds another place to stay. "I don't want to make it harder for you than it has to be. But I'm not sharing a bed with that jerk any longer than absolutely necessary." "What about the kids? When are you going to tell them?" I asked. "I'll tell them tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully, Alan will be gone by then." "Think they can handle it?" "Ashley will be fine, but Brandon, it's going to be tough. There's something else, Jamie, something that seals the deal with Alan." Cynthia paused, taking a sip of her latte. "Ashley got into an argument with a girl at school the other day. Apparently, this girl said her dad is a regular visitor, at her friend's mom's house. And get this, the mom's name is Maria Sanchez. The divorced one. Ashley got upset, But the other girl just stood her ground and told Ashley to ask Maria herself if she didn't believe it. It was awful, Jamie. I'd never seen Cynthia look so defeated. How's Ashley handling it? I asked, my heart breaking for them both. I calmed her down, told her she shouldn't believe everything she hears. But I think deep down, she knows. She's only 10, but kids grow up fast these days. I'm so sorry, Canyon. I know how hard this is. Telling them you're leaving their dad, it won't be easy. I know you'll make sure they still see him, but it's still going to hurt. I could tell that she didn't want to deny Alan visitation. He might be a lousy husband, but he did seem to genuinely love his kids. Cynthia was quiet for a moment, then added, "The kids, they asked about you. It's funny, they really like you, you know? Having you around will really help, I think. It will make the transition a little easier on them. You're more of a father figure than anyone." Thanks, Cynthia. I'm looking forward to that. And to be with you. Cynthia reached for my hand. You said you wanted to talk? What's on your mind? I found a house I'm thinking about buying, and, I want you to come see it with me. Get your opinion, since you'll be, living there, too. Sure, let's do it. I could really use a distraction right now. She managed a weak smile. At 11 a.m., we met the realtor at the house. I showed Cynthia around, pointing out the things I liked and things that needed some work. It wasn't a fancy place, but it had potential. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a decent-sized yard, and a finished basement, which could be used for storage or a playroom. I like it, Jamie. It needs some work, but nothing we can't handle. Plenty of space for the kids, and that basement would make a great playroom. So, if you're looking for my approval, you've got it. Great. Let's make an offer and see what happens. It's been on the market for 4 months, so they might be willing to deal. We told the realtor we were ready to make an offer, and she was practically giddy. Probably a slow market, I figured. I put in a lowball offer, fully expecting a counter offer. It was a good way to gauge just how desperate the sellers were. The fact that the house was empty suggested they might be carrying 2 mortgages and eager to unload it. Cynthia offered to buy lunch afterward, so we stopped at a sushi place near her house. Alan would never eat here, she said, with a mischievous grin. I laughed, glad to see her sense of humor returning, even though I knew it was probably temporary, a brief respite before she had to face Alan. The rest of the weekend was lonely. Jennifer was gone, and even though we hadn't been close lately, it was still strange not having her around. Plus, I couldn't see Cynthia, either, not until after she dealt with Alan. On Saturday, I took a walk along the river to clear my head and spent the rest of the weekend catching up on work. By Sunday afternoon, I felt like I was back on track. Mr. Chen was pleased when I gave him an update on Monday morning, and he mentioned a big new project he wanted me to take on. We scheduled a meeting for Tuesday to discuss the details. I called Cynthia that afternoon. She had heard from Melissa that Alan's divorce papers were ready, and her anxiety was palpable. She wanted to go over her strategy for serving him. I gently suggested it might be better to have someone else deliver the papers, but she was adamant. No way, Jamie. If someone else serves him, he'll go ballistic. I need to do this myself. Maybe I can make him understand how much he's hurt me, hurt the kids. But I'm not changing my mind. I'm not going to forgive him. This is his fault, and it's over. I gave him another chance, and he just walked all over me again. Fool me once, that's it. I wish I could be there for you, Canyon. I really did. I know. I appreciate it, Jamie. But I need to do this on my own. I'm doing it tomorrow morning. I probably won't sleep a wink tonight, just thinking about it. But I can't let the kids see this. I have to face him myself. It's the only way. Good luck, Canyon. I'm here if you need me. Just call. Tuesday morning, I went through my usual routine, gathering my laptop and other work essentials. I decided to treat myself to a full breakfast at the motel restaurant. I had to laugh. Even though I was making good money now, my frugal habits were hard to break. After breakfast, I waited until rush hour traffic had died down before heading over to Mr. Chen's office. I couldn't stop thinking about Cynthia and how she was handling things with Alan. She was a strong woman, but this was rough, even for her. When I arrived at Mr. Chen's office, He surprised me by proposing a massive new project. He needed a whole slew of manuals translated, for tractors, backhoes, forklifts, all imported from China. It was a huge undertaking, far beyond anything I'd handled before. "Mr. Chen, I'm not sure I can handle this on my own. It's a lot to take on, and I'm not exactly an expert on this kind of heavy equipment." "Jamie, you're good at what you do." "Very good. Can you find people to help? I'm willing to pay $100 an hour for this. It's a big job, a very important job, and I trust you to get it done right." He was clearly counting on me. "Let me think about it. I'll take a look at one of the manuals and see what I think. I'll let you know." "Thank you, Jamie. I trust your judgment." I left his office with a hefty forklift manual tucked under my arm, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. As I drove back towards Cynthia's, I couldn't shake a feeling of unease. I grabbed my phone, about to call her, but hesitated. What if Alan was still there? What if things had gone badly? I decided to wait until I got to her place. I pulled up to Cynthia's townhouse around 10:30, relieved to see that Alan's car was gone. I dialed her number. "Hello?" Her voice was soft, hesitant. "Hey, Cynthia, it's Jamie. Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay. Can you come over? I need to see you." "I'm right outside. Just wanted to make sure Alan was gone." "He's gone. Come on in. Coffee's ready." A moment later, I walked into the kitchen to find Cynthia sitting at the table, looking exhausted. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. "Hey," I said softly, sitting down beside her and handing her a mug of coffee. "What happened?" Cynthia sighed, shaking her head. "He completely broke down, Jamie. Crying, begging, he even got down on his knees, begging for another chance. It was so pathetic it actually made me cry, too." "Did he agree to leave?" I asked. "He did, but he tried to deny everything at first. Then, when I brought up Jennifer, and why you're divorcing her, he looked like he was going to be sick. And then I told him about Maria Sanchez, and what that girl at school had said to Ashley, and that's when he lost it." "Sounds rough. How are you holding up?" "Not great, Jamie. Like you, I feel like I wasted all these years. 10 years I can't get back. Part of me is so angry, but part of me is just sad. There's a big difference between our 10 years and my 7, Canyon." "Yeah? Like what?" "Like Ashley and Brandon." Tears welled up in her eyes again. I took her hands in mine and squeezed them gently. "Come on, Cynthia. You're strong. You'll get through this." Cynthia finally broke down, and I held her, letting her cry. She was strong. I knew she'd come out of this okay, even if it hurt like hell for a while. "Tell me what happened, Canyon," I urged softly. She took a deep breath, composing herself. I made him sit down at the kitchen table, and I told him I was filing for divorce. He tried to talk his way out of it, his usual song and dance. But I was prepared this time. I had all the proof. When he realized he couldn't talk me out of it, he tried the sympathy card, brought up the kids, all our years together. But it just made it easier, Jamie. His fake remorse, it didn't faze me at all. I laid it all out, all the times he betrayed me, all the times I'd forgiven him. By the end, he was a mess. "Had you already packed his bag?" Cynthia nodded. "I told him to leave, and for a minute, I think he thought it was just a temporary thing, until I handed him the papers. That's when it hit him. He's gone, Jamie. For good." "He left?" "He did, dragging his suitcase behind him, looking completely defeated. It was, actually kind of sad. I wish I could have been there for you, Cynthia." "No, Jamie, I had to do it myself. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Don't feel bad for me, okay? It had to be done. And it had to be done firmly." "Well, I guess we're both starting new lives now, huh?" "That's one way to put it. I'm just really glad you're going to be a part of mine." She looked at me, her expression intense. "Jamie, are you having second thoughts about this? About us?" "No, of course not. It's your choice, Cynthia. Whatever happens, it's up to you." "That's a cop-out, Jamie. You tell me you have feelings for me, then you leave it all up to me?" What kind of man are you? She was challenging me, playfully, but I could tell she was serious. I couldn't help but smile. And she couldn't help but smile back. Then, she was in my arms again, this time her lips pressed against mine, a deep, passionate kiss that left me breathless. "Don't worry, Jamie," she whispered, her voice husky. "I don't think we'll be apart for very long." As I'd expected, the sellers countered my offer on the house, but it wasn't far off from what I was willing to pay. After a bit of back and forth, we had a deal. I now owned a 4-bedroom house in a great neighborhood, with plenty of space for Cynthia and the kids. Looking back, I'm almost embarrassed by how easily I'd moved on from Jennifer. I realized I'd never truly been in love with her, not the way my parents loved each other. Being with Cynthia, that was different. That was real. Since signing the divorce papers, I hadn't seen or spoken to Jennifer. The final decree would come in February. Rumor had it, she and Mark had skipped town together, with little more than his Mercedes and whatever they could cram into their suitcases. Apparently, Elaine Thompson had taken over the lab, and Jennifer had, for the second time, lost her chance at the life she thought she wanted. Alan was still working at the Chevy dealership, but he was a changed man. His divorce from Cynthia would be final in March. He saw the kids every week but kept a low profile otherwise. The single life didn't seem to suit him as much as he'd thought it would. Cynthia, at my suggestion, had decided not to ask for alimony or child support. Alan was already struggling, and neither of us would have felt good about kicking him while he was down. We were financially secure, while he was drowning in mortgage payments and credit card debt. Playing around had turned out to be pretty costly for him. Cynthia and I were a different story. She didn't take crap from anyone, including me. I'd never understand why Alan cheated on her. He truly deserved the "dumbest man alive" award. I loved Cynthia like crazy and would fight tooth and nail to keep her. And when she said she loved me, well, I wasn't going to argue. Let's just say I was benefiting greatly from her very high opinion of me, and I was making damn sure I stayed in shape. That 4th bedroom didn't stay a bedroom for long. After she'd kicked Alan out, Cynthia sat down with the kids and explained everything. Ashley, already aware of her father's less than stellar behavior, took it better than Brandon, but both kids needed reassurance that they would still see their dad. Brandon was quiet and withdrawn for a few days, but eventually, he adjusted, as kids do. Cynthia told them about the new house, with its big backyard, and that they would be staying in the same school. When she mentioned that I would be living with them, Brandon actually cheered, and Ashley nodded her approval. "They seem to like you as much as you like them, Jamie. Kids are good at picking up on vibes, you know?" Cynthia said with a smile. We moved into the new house a few days after Halloween. I took the kids trick-or-treating in their old neighborhood, and they had a blast seeing their friends. There was no sign of Alan. I figured it was probably too painful for him to face everyone. I hired movers to make the move as painless as possible. Jennifer and I had agreed to split the furniture, and I made a point of not sweating the small stuff. Alan, who was now crashing with a buddy from work, didn't need any furniture, so he sold what we didn't need and made sure he got his fair share. The only new things I had to buy were a big screen TV for the kids and a few extra things for the dining room. Christmas was just around the corner, and I couldn't wait. I was planning on spoiling Cynthia and the kids rotten, but carefully, so as not to get too much heat from Cynthia. She knew how much they meant to me, and that made everything so much easier. Our new life together, it was amazing. Let's just say Cynthia was a lot more passionate and uninhibited than Jennifer. And I was definitely not complaining. To avoid disturbing the kids while they were doing homework, I'd set up my home office in the spare bedroom between their rooms and ours. We quickly embraced the perks of working from home, often taking a break for a little midday happy hour when the work allowed. As for my business, it was booming. I'd found a fantastic multilingual engineer who was a perfect fit for Mr. Chen's big project, and we'd secured a contract to translate all those manuals into English, French, and even Spanish. Mr. Chen was already looking to expand into the South American market, and I had years of work lined up, not just for him but also for other clients who were starting to discover precise word services. I knew I'd need to hire more people soon to keep up with the demand. Cynthia had become my unofficial personal assistant, and she was amazing. Negotiating contracts, scheduling, keeping the books, she was a natural. She was more than just my assistant, though. She was my partner, in every sense of the word. And to top it all off, we were getting married. We'd decided on a destination wedding in Hawaii over spring break, and both our families were coming. Cynthia's mom, who was widowed, was especially excited. She never really liked Alan, so I was starting with a clean slate with her. This time, it was for keeps. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this journey through James Miller's story. A tale of resilience, self-discovery, and finding love in the most unexpected places. If this story resonated with you, let us know in the comments below. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another video. We've got plenty more inspiring stories coming your way, so stay tuned. Until next time, remember to keep your head up and your heart open, because you never know where life might take you.